Arya opened her eyes to darkness. Her head hurt. Her lips were dry. The floor beneath her felt cold like metal. She tried to move, but heavy chains held her wrists and ankles. Panic started to rise in her chest. Where was she? Slowly, her eyes adjusted. She was inside a small cage, metal bars, strange symbols carved into the walls. The air smelled like oil and blood. Outside her cage, there were more cages. Some had aliens inside. Some were empty. Some had bloodstains. A low growl echoed through the prison hall. Humania voice hissed from the cage across hers. The creature was tall, with blue skin and many sharp teeth. Its yellow eyes glowed in the dark. "You're not going to last long." Arya didn't answer. She didn't know what to say. She didn't even know how she got here. The last thing she remembered was Earth, a bright light in the sky, running. Then nothing. Footsteps, heavy, slow, loud. A tall, armored alien walked between the cages. Its armor was black and red. It looked like a reptile, with scales and glowing red eyes. It stopped in front of Arya's cage. "She looks weak," it said in a cold voice. "Send her in. Let the arena eat her." The alien pressed a button. Her cage door opened with a loud clang. 2 more guards grabbed her and dragged her out. Arya tried to fight, but she had no strength. The aliens didn't even flinch. They pulled her into a long hallway. Bright lights flashed above her head. She could hear the sound of a crowd cheering, screaming, laughing. Then the door opened. Blinding sunlight hit her face. The roar of thousands filled the air. Arya stood on a stone platform, looking down at a huge arena. Blood stained the sand below. Bones and weapons were scattered across it. This wasn't a prison. This was a coliseum. The voice of a speaker echoed through the stadium. The language was alien, but something in her brain understood it. Maybe a translator was inside her, or maybe something else. "Today," the voice said, "we feed the pit with fresh prey to human." The crowd cheered louder. The gate opened behind her. The guards pushed her forward. She stumbled down the stairs and fell to the sand. The gate slammed shut behind her. She was alone. Across the arena, another gate opened. A beast stepped out, huge, black-skinned, for arms and eyes that glowed like fire. Its mouth opened wide, showing rows of teeth. It roared, and the ground shook. Arya froze. She had no armor, no weapons, not even shoes. The beast charged. She ran. Instinct took over. She jumped over broken bones, slid under a fallen spear, and rolled across the sand. The beast smashed into the wall behind her, angry and loud. Then something strange happened. A voice, clear, calm, and not hers, spoke. In her head, neural defense activated, heart rate critical, adrenaline boosted, combat mode initializing. Her vision sharpened. Time seemed to slow. Arya reached for the broken spear near her. Her hand moved faster than she thought possible. The beast turned. She stood her ground. It lunged. She stepped aside, twisted, and drove the spear into its chest. The weapon pierced the skin. The beast roared in pain. Arya didn't stop. She pulled the spear out and stabbed again. Shoulder, leg, throat. Finally, the beast dropped. The crowd was silent. Then, they roared louder than ever before. Arya stood in the middle of the arena, covered in blood, shaking. She looked at her hands. She didn't understand what just happened. The voice in her head returned. "Protocol NYX7 online. Hello, Arya. You are not supposed to be here, but now that you are, we will survive." She fell to her knees, breathing hard. From the royal box above the arena, a tall alien warlord stood. He had golden armor and eyes like a snake. He looked down at her with interest. "Interesting," he said. "Very interesting." Back in her cage, the guards whispered as they locked her up. She killed it. No human ever survived the first round. She didn't even have training. Inside the dark cell, Arya curled up, trying to understand what had happened. What was that voice in her head? What was Protocol NYX7, and why did it feel familiar? She closed her eyes. She didn't want to be a killer. She didn't want to be here. But deep down, something had changed. She wasn't just trying to survive anymore. Something inside her had awakened. And the arena was watching. Arya sat in her cage, her body still shaking. Her hands were stained with dried blood. Her legs hurt. Her heart beat fast every time she remembered the beast falling. She hadn't meant to kill it. She didn't even know how she did it. But something inside her had taken control. Something that moved faster, thought quicker, and wasn't afraid. The voice in her head spoke again. "Vitals stable. Minor injuries. Muscle strain. 42%. Combat potential increasing." "What are you?" she whispered. "I am NYX. Tactical AI installed in subject. Arya human prototype. 17. Prototype. Before she could ask more, the door to the hallway opened. A small, gray-skinned alien stepped inside. He wore a robe and carried a tray of food. He placed it near her and paused. "I saw what you did," he said softly. "That beast, it has killed 20 before you. But you, I didn't mean to," she said. He blinked, then the voice. "In your head did." She looked up, eyes sharp. "How do you know?" The alien gave a weak smile. "Because I've seen it before, long ago. In the labs, you're not just a human. You're one of their old weapons. Buried, forgotten." He stood and whispered before leaving. "They will fear you now. Be careful. Fear is more dangerous than hate." The next day, the crowd waited. They expected her to die yesterday. Instead, she gave them blood and a fight they'd never forget. Now, they wanted more. The gate opened again. Arya stepped out, this time more aware. Her movements were calm. Her eyes scanned the arena. NYX whispered quietly in her mind. 2 enemies, both armed. Recommend quick engagement. Prioritize disarm. Across from her, 2 armored gladiators waited. One had twin blades, the other a chain weapon that spun fast. They ran toward her. Arya moved, faster than yesterday. She slid under the chain, kicked the blade user in the knee, and rolled behind a fallen shield. The crowd roared. The fighters shouted in rage. This time, Arya meant to win. She dodged attacks, used broken weapons around her, turned their own moves against them. Within minutes, both were down, one alive, one not. The match ended. The arena master stood and raised his clawed hand. "We have seen animals fight, but now we see something else." He pointed to Arya. "She is not just prey. She is becoming." The crowd chanted her name, not for who she was, but for what she could be. That night, NYX spoke again. "You are not just lucky, Arya. You were made for war. They took you as a child, modified your body, connected me to your mind." Arya sat with her knees to her chest. Why would humans do this? Because they feared extinction. The Dravari were coming. Earth needed weapons. But when peace talks began, the project was shut down. She remembered Flash's cold rooms, men in suits, wires attached to her skin, needles, pain, then blackness. "They froze me, yes, until someone sold you to the Dravari. They thought you were broken cargo." Arya felt her anger grow. "I'm not their toy, not yours, not anyone's. Then use me. Choose what we become." Over the next few days, Arya kept winning. Her name spread through the city. Whispers turned into stories. The human girl with ghost eyes, the one who dances with death, the weapon that thinks. Each fight was harder. Bigger enemies, smarter ones. Some had armor, some had weapons that could cut stone. But Arya kept surviving. She wasn't just fighting anymore, she was learning, reading their patterns, testing her limits, and NYX guided her like a second brain. One night, a guard named Kriv entered her cell. He was different, young, unsure, and not cruel like the others. "They're watching you," he said quietly. "The High Circle, the Warlord. You're not a fighter to them anymore. You're a question, one they don't like." "Why tell me this?" she asked. "Because if they fear you too much, they'll kill you before the final match." Later, she was taken not to the arena but to a chamber made of black stone. Statues lined the walls. Tall Dravari nobles stood in a half-circle. At the center was the Warlord. Golden armor, cold eyes. He studied her in silence. "You were meant to die in my arena," he said. "Now they call you godling." She said nothing. "You could rise." He continued. "I can make you a queen of war, give you weapons, a command of armies, your own slaves. Just kneel." Arya looked at him. "I am not your queen, and I don't kneel." The room went silent. The Warlord's lips curled into a strange smile. "Then let us see what happens when a godling bleeds." He waved his hand. Guards pulled her away. Back in the cage, Arya looked at the stars above. She whispered to NYX, "They're going to try to break me. Then let them try. You are no longer prey." The crowd didn't know yet. The nobles didn't know yet. But the girl who was meant to die had something they didn't expect. A mind that could not be controlled, and a storm coming from deep inside her. Screams filled the arena. Not from the crowd but from the guards. The lights above the stands burst in showers of sparks. Slave collars blinked red, then fell to the ground like dead snakes. Doors groaned open across the lower decks, and Arya stood in the center of it all alone, glowing. Free. NYX. Status, full system override. Arena control is now ours. High above, in the Warlord's viewing box, nobles shouted and scrambled. Panic spread like fire. They had come to see a girl die, but now they watched an empire bleed. The Warlord slammed his fist into the console. Shut it down, shut her down. His text didn't respond, because they were already running, all across the arena. The prisoners rose. Some had been fighters, others just workers, forgotten in cages for years. But now, every chain was broken, and they ran. Some picked up weapons from fallen guards, some didn't need any. In the hallways, fires lit up. Sirens screamed. The great arena, once proud and shining, turned into a battlefield. Kriv sprinted down a blood-stained corridor, blasting open gates as he passed. He had thrown away his armor. Now he was just a man helping others escape. He reached Arya's cell, but it was already open. Of course, it was. He turned toward the central pit, where the match had taken place, and there she was, not running, not hiding. Leading. Arya marched through the chaos like a storm. She wasn't just trying to escape, she was changing the whole world around her. Slave pens 3 through 7 free. Guard resistance falling. She stopped in front of the main command tower. 2 guards tried to block her path. She didn't slow down. She ducked one, slammed his head into the wall, grabbed the other, and sent him flying with a shock from her fist powered by NYX. She kicked the door in. Inside the tower, glowing panels lit up the dark. This was the brain of the arena. Upload complete. We now control all entry points, supply lifts, even oxygen levels. Good, she said. Lock every gate behind us. Trap the nobles in their golden box. NYX hesitated. Warning. Such action make us deaths. Arya didn't blink. They've killed thousands. Let them taste the air they poisoned. In the luxury box, the warlord roared in rage. He watched the monitors as prisoner after prisoner rose. His empire, his rules, his arena being ripped apart by the girl he thought would die screaming. Send in the war beasts, he shouted. A guard shook his head. They're not responding. What do you mean? They're listening to her now. Meanwhile, Arya climbed the final stairs to the control beacon, a tall, glowing tower that broadcasted signals to all of Dravari space. Kriv met her there, out of breath. You really did it, he said, his voice full of awe. She looked at him, sweat on her brow, cuts on her face, but her eyes full of fire. No, she said, we did. They reached the beacon core. One push of a button, and every slave camp across the galaxy would hear her voice. She placed her hand on the console. NYX connected, ready to transmit. Arya looked up. This is for everyone who was told to kneel, who was beaten, caged, forgotten. She closed her eyes. And spoke, across 100 worlds. The message played. My name is Arya. They built this arena to break us, to make us fight for their entertainment. But I didn't break, and neither will you. You are not slaves. You are not animals. You are warriors, survivors. You are free. Rise. The warlord watched the message in silence. Then, for the first time, he looked afraid. He drew his sword and walked to his ship. I will find her, even if I must burn every world she touches. But even he knew he was no longer hunting a girl. He was chasing a legend. Arya stood at the top of the burning tower, looking down at the arena she had once bled in. She saw people running toward the open desert, prisoners, children, aliens, of every kind. Free. The sky above lit up with escape ships, many stolen from the nobles who now cried for help. Kriv came up beside her. What now? He asked. She looked at the stars. We take this fire, she said, and we carry it to every world they still own. Kriv nodded. And after that? She gave a small smile. Then we remind the universe what it means to be human. As the tower crumbled behind them and the crowd vanished into the dark, one thing became clear. The arena was gone, but something greater had risen in its place. A movement. A god made not of magic, but of will. She was never meant to live past the first fight, but now, she was unstoppable. They said she wouldn't last a day outside the arena. They said the galaxy would swallow her whole. They were wrong. 3 days after the uprising, the Dravari Empire declared Arya an enemy of the stars. Wanted posters showed her face on every bounty network. The reward? Enough to buy a small moon. But none of it mattered. Because no one could find her. Not really. Arya had become something more than a fugitive. She had become a symbol. In the far corners of space, slave camps reported strange failures. Locks fell open in the night. Security towers lost power. Fighters disappeared from cages without a trace. One message was always left behind, scratched into walls, burned into steel. She lives. Kriv flew the stolen ship through asteroid belts and dead zones. It was old, patched together, half alive, but it worked, and it was theirs. Inside, Arya stood over the main table. A map of Dravari systems glowed in red. She pointed. This world, Kashtar, mining colony, Thousands still in chains. We hit it next. Kriv raised an eyebrow. With what? We barely escaped the last system. Arya looked at him, calm but fierce. We don't need an army. We just need a spark. They landed on Kashtar. Under cover of night. Dust storms howled across the desert. The sky was dark and heavy, and the workers in the mines looked like walking shadows, thin, broken, hopeless. Arya walked into the central slave yard with her hood up. She saw the guards, tall and cruel, shouting orders. The child fell. No one helped him up. The guard raised a shock rod, but before he could strike, a hand grabbed his wrist. Arya. The guard laughed. You got a death wish, offworlder? She pulled back her hood. He froze. It was her. The girl from the arena. The god. By the time he reached for his weapon, it was too late. She knocked him down with one hit. The others ran. The workers stared in silence. Arya turned to them. You know who I am, she said. You know what I did. She held up a small device, the same kind she used in the arena. This breaks the collars. All of them. She pressed the button. Across the yard, every collar sparked and dropped. Some cried. Some collapsed. Some just stared at their own necks, unable to believe it. You're free, she said. But now you must fight to stay that way. That night, the mines burned, the guards fell, and another world changed hands, not by war, but by will. Back on the ship, Kriv patched up Arya's shoulder. She had taken a hit from a plasma blade. You're going to get yourself killed, he said softly. She smirked. You're starting to sound like a friend. I'm starting to believe in something, he replied. Arya looked out the window. More and more stars were blinking on the map. Places where her message had spread, where uprisings had begun, where they believed. NYX's voice echoed in her mind. The pattern is spreading. The empire is weakening. How long until they strike back? Soon. And they did. Hard. 4 days later, a fleet dropped out of hyperspace above a peaceful rebel outpost. Ships marked with the warlord's sigil. No warning. No demands. Just fire. Cities were flattened. Leaders killed. Survivors taken. It was a message to Arya, a challenge. She saw the smoke before she landed. Bodies in the street. Flags torn down. Silence. She knelt beside a child's toy, burnt and broken. Kriv came beside her. We're not strong enough to protect everyone. I know, she said, but we will be. The architect reconnected to NYX that night. Arya, there are others like you, scattered, hidden, failed experiments, but some still breathe. She looked up. Where? I will guide you. She stood. The mission had changed. It was no longer just about freeing slaves. It was about building something greater. A new force, a rebellion of the forgotten, a god, and her army of ghosts. The warlord, deep in his throne world, watched the red dots on his map blink out world after world. He growled. Why won't she die? His advisor trembled. Because perhaps she's not just a girl anymore. She's becoming a myth. And in the shadows between stars, on ships without names, in cities without rulers, people whispered her name like a prayer. Arya. The god they couldn't kill. The flame they couldn't put out. The girl who stood in the dirt, looked her killers in the eye, and said, not today. The night was cold, even under the alien sky. Arya sat alone in her cell, arms around her knees. The cheers from the arena still echoed through the metal walls. But her mind wasn't on the crowd. It was on the voice inside her. Memory fragment. Detected. Shall I open it? Yes, Arya whispered. Her vision shifted suddenly. She wasn't in the cage anymore. She stood in a clean white lab. She was smaller, maybe 10 years old. Wires connected to her arms, her head, her chest. Scientists watched from behind glass walls. Her mother's voice cried from somewhere distant. She's just a child. Stop this. But no one listened. One scientist pressed a button. Her younger self screamed as electricity flowed through her body. Then everything went dark again. Back in the cell, Arya gasped. Tears ran down her cheeks. They tortured me, she said. They called it training. NYX replied. They didn't know you would remember. The next morning, the guards came. But not with chains, this time. They brought her to a different place deep below the arena. Stone walls, old tech, lights flickering. Kriv, the young guard, led her silently. Where are we? She asked. He looked over his shoulder. The ancient levels. Even the Dravari don't come down here anymore. They stopped at a thick metal door. This place. Kriv hesitated, then stepped aside. Something in here knows you. Go alone. The door creaked open. Inside, the air was thick and heavy. Strange machines lined the walls. In the center of the room was a large black cube, humming softly. As Arya stepped forward. The cube lit up. A voice not NYX, but deeper spoke. Identification confirmed. Subject Arya. Prototypo 17. Status activated. She froze. Who are you? I am the architect. I created the NYX program. I built what you are. Arya stared at the cube. Why? Because humanity was dying. The wars were endless. Peace was a lie. We needed more than soldiers. We needed gods in human skin. She clenched her fists. I never chose this, no. But now you must choose what to do with it. Suddenly, the cube sent a pulse through the floor. A hidden panel opened. Inside it was a small metallic sphere. Take it. This is a key. It can unlock systems across the arena, shields, doors, even the slave collars. She picked it up. It was warm. You were made to obey. But your blood remembers rebellion. Back in her cage, Arya hid the sphere under the floor. Her mind was racing. NYX whispered in her head. We now control 17% of the arena systems. With time, we can take more. Do it, Arya said, quietly. That night, she spoke to the other prisoners one by one. Through the bars, aliens from different worlds, all beaten, all hopeless. Until she gave them something new. A plan. In the next match, she fought harder than ever. Her opponent was a monster with cybernetic arms. It nearly crushed her. But Arya didn't fall. She let the crowd think she was wounded, barely alive. And while they cheered, NYX mapped every control point in the arena. KRIV helped, silently, secretly. And then, the architect connected. The systems began to blink under her command. Later, back in the cell, Arya found a hidden camera blinking red. The warlord was watching her. They know something's changing. NYX warned, let them watch. She said, let them see the storm coming. Suddenly, her cage door opened. Without warning, two elite guards stepped in and dragged her away. They didn't take her to the arena. They took her to the warlord's private chamber. The room was huge, covered in gold. Bones of past champions hung on the walls. The warlord sat on a tall black throne, one clawed hand resting on his sword. You are becoming dangerous, he said. Arya stood straight. Only to those who keep others in chains. The warlord laughed. You speak like a ruler, but you forget you're still mine. He stood and walked toward her slowly. Say the word, and I'll give you more than freedom. I'll give you a seat beside me when we burn other worlds. Your power is wasted on mercy. Arya's eyes glowed faintly now, NYX's energy flowing through her veins. I am not like you, she said, and I never will be. The warlord's smile faded. So, be it. He waved his hand. A shock collar was placed around her neck. Then darkness. She woke up back in the cage, bruised, bleeding, but still alive. NYX spoke softly. They fear you more now, and fear makes them stupid. Arya smiled weakly. Good. She reached under the floor, pulled out the metallic sphere, and held it tight. In 3 days, the warlord would host the grand match. Every noble would be watching. It was meant to be her final fight. But Arya had other plans, not just to win, not just to survive, but to burn their empire from the inside out, and rise finally not as their slave, but as something they could never control. 3 days. Remained 3 days until the grand match. 3 days until the entire Dravari elite would gather in the Sky Palace above the arena to watch Arya's final fight. The guards thought she didn't notice the change. Heavier patrols, locked doors that didn't used to be locked, but Arya noticed everything. She was watching them too. Kriv met her in the food hall late at night. His hands shook. They're planning something, he whispered. The warlord, he wants you to lose on purpose. Badly. Publicly. Arya raised an eyebrow. Then I won't just win. I'll embarrass him. Kriv swallowed. That's why. I'm scared. He doesn't want you dead in the match. He wants you broken before it starts. She leaned in closer. Let him try. Back in her cell, NYX ran a silent scan. Security towers connected. Guard pots predictable. Slave collars. Will respond to signal from sphere. Full control is 72% complete. What's left? Arya asked. Main arena gates. Warlord's personal override code required. She smiled. Then I'll make him give it to me. Next morning, Arya stood inside the training chamber. A test match was ordered to keep her sharp. The guards joked, but she knew the truth. They wanted to see if she was weakening. They sent 5 at once. All armed. The gates opened. The crowd was small. No nobles, just guards and techs. Perfect. The 5 fighters ran toward her. Arya stood still, calculating every step, every breath. Threat level, high. Recommendation, isolate and neutralize. She moved like lightning. She dropped one with a strike to the throat. spun low, disarmed the second, grabbed the third and used him as a shield against the others. Less than 30 seconds, 5 bodies down. She didn't kill them. She wanted them to wake up and remember what she was. She looked up at the cameras and said, loud and clear, "Tell your warlord this is my arena now." That night, they came for her again. No chains, no words. The same golden armored guards dragged her through the halls and into a deep underground chamber. A single chair stood at the center. Electric pulses buzzed in the air. They forced her down and strapped her wrists. The warlord entered the room. "I offered you a throne," he said, circling her slowly. "But you prefer fire, so let me show you how it feels to burn." He pressed a button. Pain exploded through her spine. Arya screamed. NYX tried to activate defenses, but the signal jammed. The warlord leaned in. "Break, little god, break." Time passed in flashes. Pain, blackness, whispers. She heard Kriv's voice once. "Maybe real, maybe not. You don't deserve this. Hold on, please." She heard NYX trying to reconnect. Systems offline, recovering. She floated between worlds, between memory and machine. Then the architect's voice came again. "They fear what you are becoming, because they know you're more than they ever planned for." When she woke, she was back in her cell. Alone. Her body burned, but her mind was sharp, clear. "Arya," NYX said gently, "I am here. Recovery at 82%. Systems adapting." She smiled weakly. "Good, because I'm done playing fair." She reached under the floor and took the sphere in her hand. "Shall we begin?" NYX asked. Yes. That night, a silent signal pulsed through the slave cages. Doors opened, just for a second, long enough to give hope. Enough to start whispers. "Something's happening. The human, she's doing something." And then Arya spoke through NYX, using the arena's old speaker system. Only the cells could hear. 3 nights from now, during the grand match, the gate will open. You will be free." She paused. "But only if you fight." The day of the grand match came. The sky above the arena was full of ships glowing. Powerful vessels from across the stars. Nobles in silks and jewels filled the glass balconies. The warlord sat on his throne, smiling like a predator. He didn't see Kriv slipping something into the control station. He didn't notice that the slave techs were gone. He didn't know the storm had already started. Arya stood in the center of the arena. The gate behind her was closed. In front of her stood her final opponent, a monster part machine, part beast, taller than any she had faced. Its arms were cannons. Its armor was made from the bones of past champions. The warlord's voice rang out. "Behold, the girl who called herself a god. Let us see if gods can bleed." The crowd roared. The match began. The beast charged. Arya moved, not with fear but with purpose. She dodged the cannon blasts, slid under its swinging arm, and stabbed deep into its leg joint. Sparks flew. Metal hissed. NYX guided her like music. Left strike incoming. Counter in 3, 2, now. She ducked and drove her elbow into the exposed panel under its chest. The machine beast stumbled. She climbed its back, tore a panel open, and jammed the metal sphere inside. Override command uploaded. The entire arena flickered. Lights went dark. Screens glitched. Slave collars fell open. Doors unlocked. And Arya whispered into the system, "Run, rise, burn it all." Above, the warlord jumped to his feet. "What have you done?" Arya stood over the fallen beast, its body still sparking. She looked straight up at the warlord. "I learned the game," she said, voice calm, "and now I play it better." The stars were quiet, too quiet. Arya stared at the black screen in front of her. No signals, no movement, just the deep silence of space. But she knew what waited out there. Not peace, not safety, only ghosts, and she was hunting them. The architect had told her, "The Empire made more like you. Human test subjects, secret projects. Most were discarded. Some survived, hidden in the dark." Arya was one of the lucky ones. Now she had to find the others, not just to save them, but to finish what they started. Kriv flew the ship towards Sector 7B, a dead zone full of wreckage, ruined labs, and blacklisted planets. "Why would the Empire leave survivors?" he asked. Arya looked out the window. "Because they thought no one would ever come for them." "But we are," she nodded. "We're building something they don't understand." Kriv smiled. "Hope." "No," Arya said quietly. "Revenge." They landed on Torvin 5, a frozen world once used for secret military experiments. Now, it was abandoned, or so the Empire claimed. The ground cracked beneath their boots as they walked through the ruins of a lab. NYX scanned the air. High radiation, multiple human biosigns, deep underground. They found the elevator shaft. It was sealed shut. Arya placed her hand on the panel. Old tech. I can override it. Moments later, the floor trembled and the door slid open. They went down. The lower levels were dark, cold, silent. Then a whisper. Arya stopped. A voice came through the static on her communicator. Is it real? Are you her? She followed the voice, room by room, until she reached a chamber filled with pods, some shattered, some still glowing. Inside one, a boy no older than 16 stared at her through the glass. Thin, pale, wired, into the machine. A number tattooed on his neck. #for7. Arya broke the pod open. The boy collapsed into her arms. Don't hurt me, he whispered. I won't, she said softly. You're free now. He looked up, eyes wide. You're the arena girl, she nodded. What's your name? He shook his head. We weren't given names. She paused. Then I'll give you one. She thought for a moment, then said, your name is Ash. They found 4 more survivors in the ruins. 2 couldn't walk. 1 didn't speak. But they all followed Arya without question. She wasn't just a rescuer to them. She was what they were meant to become. Proof that they weren't mistakes. Proof that they were powerful. Kriv helped them onto the ship. Ash sat in the back, watching everything like a frightened animal. What now? Kriv asked. We teach them, Arya said. We heal them. And when they're ready, she stared at the stars. They fight. Meanwhile, far away, the warlord sat in a dark room. A new report flashed on the table. Secret facility on Torvin 5 compromised. Subjects stolen. By her. His hands trembled with rage. She's gathering an army. The advisor stepped back. You should consider. I should have killed her in the arena. The warlord snapped. She is not a god. She is not a legend. He turned toward the screen. I will enter with my own hands. Back on the ship, Arya stood in front of the new recruits. They were scared, damaged, quiet. But their eyes held something she remembered. The same look she once had in the cage under alien skies. The look of someone who had nothing left to lose. She spoke to them. I was made in a lab. I was trained in a cage. I was meant to die for their entertainment. But I didn't. I broke the game. She looked at each of them. And you will too. Ash stepped forward. They told us we were weapons. Arya nodded. Then it's time we aim ourselves at the right target. The ship flew into deep space. More worlds awaited. More hidden labs. More broken lives ready to be rebuilt. Arya wasn't just building an army. She was building a family. One the Empire would never understand. And somewhere out there, deep in the warlord's fortress, a new project began. A machine. Built for one purpose. To hunt gods. The stars were at war. Not with fleets. Not with bombs. But with belief. The Dravari Empire had ruled for centuries by fear. By slavery. By control. But now, one name had broken that silence. Arya. From frozen worlds to desert moons. Her face was drawn on walls, etched in steel. Burned into banners. They called her the Flame. The god who rose from chains. The human who would not bow. And now, they called her to lead them into the final battle. Arya stood in the command bay of her ship, surrounded by her people. Kriv, Ash, NYX, the others the Empire tried to erase. Behind her, rebel fleets blinked into position, ships stolen from warlords, patched together with scrap, crewed by former slaves and forgotten soldiers. We're outnumbered 10-1, Kriv said. Arya smiled. Good, she said. That means they can't run. In the heart of the Empire, the warlord stood on his obsidian bridge. Round him, hundreds of warships waited, each one armed with heavy weapons, AI drones, and a new secret weapon. Project Silence, a hunter machine made from the remains of fallen gods, built to destroy Arya. He pointed at the screen. Bring her to me. The rebel fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Zorth, the Empire's main fortress world. Alarm screamed. Defenses lit up. The stars flashed with fire. But Arya didn't flinch. She flew straight into the storm. Not as a general, but as a symbol. Ash led the ground team. Once broken, now fearless. They landed on the fortress surface and smashed through the lines like fire through dry grass. We fight for the ones they forgot. Ash shouted. Behind him, the other enhanced survivors roared, and the walls of Zorth shook. In the skies, Arya's ship dodged blasts, dived through debris, and landed right in the enemy hangar. She stepped out alone. Waiting for her was silence. Tall, cold machine and flesh, programmed with one command: kill Arya. They fought in the halls of the Empire. Blow after blow, strike after strike. Silence was strong, fast, unstoppable. But Arya had something it didn't: purpose. The final hit slammed her into a steel pillar. Blood ran down her face. Her arm trembled. Silence raised its blade. Arya stared up, smiling through the pain. You fight like a machine, she stood. I fight for everyone you tried to erase. Then she pulled the override chip from her belt. 10YX had written a code for this moment. She slammed it into Silence's chest. The machine froze, shook, then fell, dead, at the same time. Kriv broke into the command center. He faced the warlord alone. You. The warlord growled. The traitor. Kriv didn't respond, he just raised his weapon. But before he could fire, Arya entered the room. The warlord turned. I should have killed you in the first match. You tried, she said. And now, it's your turn. They didn't fight with weapons. They fought with truth. Arya broadcasted his crimes across every screen in the Empire. The secret labs, the slave markets, the executions, the lies. The warlord's face turned pale. The galaxy watched. And then it chose, one by one. Empire ships powered down. Commanders surrendered. Soldiers threw down their weapons. The warlord fell to his knees. No, they were supposed to fear me. They don't, Arya said. They remember what it means to be free. The flag of the Empire burned behind her, and in its place a symbol rose, a flame and a clenched fist, the mark of a new era. Back on the ship, the stars were quiet again, not with fear, but with peace. Kriv sat beside her. So, what now? Arya smiled. We rebuild. We return home. We tell the stories of the fallen. She looked out the window. And if they tried to cage us again, she grinned. We remind them who broke the cage. Some say she vanished after that. Some say she walks among stars, starting revolutions with a whisper. Others say she died that day so the god could live on. But all across the galaxy, they remember her name. Arya. She was meant to die in the arena. Instead, they crowned her a god.